Greetings, fellow barbarians. It is I, Alan Odinson, and this is the Barbarian Lounge podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. We got an awesome interview lined up for you, but as always, we got to go through this little bit of housekeeping here. I'm going to go through it as fast as painlessly as possible so we can jump to our content. First off, our website is thebarbarianlounge.com. I urge you to go there and check it out. We've got a lot of different stuff on the website. I'm going to be uploading some new articles later this week, so check those out, probably relating to the content that we're going to talk about today, just for the sake of having it there. I also urge you to check out our shop. Got a lot of different items in there, plus our ever so popular Thuggy Strangulation cords. Here at the Barbarian Lounge, our goal is to make strangulation great again. And what better way to do that than to pick up a Thuggy Strangulation cord from the Barbarian Lounge shop. Every purchase helps support the show. Those are handmade, custom-made cords by yours truly. If you listen to our episode on Thug Life, you will understand the significance of the design behind it. So check it out at our Barbarian Lounge shop. Another way you can support the show is by clicking on that donate button. Once you do that, you will have two different options. One of those options is a one-time PayPal donation, which is exactly as it sounds, no explanation necessary. The other option you will have is to become a member on our Patreon site. On the Patreon site, you basically go there and you do a per show donation, minimum of $1 per show. As a Patreon member, you do have a few different perks. One of those is you get all of our shows early, all of our 4 regular shows. You get those way ahead of time before they hit the airwaves for the rest of the audience to consume. But you also get 4 exclusive broadcasts only available to members that are part of our Patreon site. So that's 8 total shows if you do the minimum of $1, which most people are doing anywhere from $2 and up, but $1 minimum. But if you do the $1 minimum, that's a total of $8 per month to help support this broadcast, keep the lights on, keep it going here. Because let me tell you something: podcasting is not a money making scheme. It is not a way to make a living, at least on my end. But what it does, your donations allow me to keep upgrading the systems here, adding more protection to our software. As you know, we've been hacked twice this year. That's one of our highlights of 2017. So all of your donations help keep this show afloat. Support your local podcaster. We are the guys that are out there on the front lines bringing you cutting-edge information that most people are not, which is going to be, in a few minutes, is going to be very apparent with this broadcast. So check it out there. Become a member. Support the show. You can also catch us on iTunes, Stitcher, and all those different little podcasting sites as that. I urge you to support our sponsors, Odinson Archery, traditional bows made from non-traditional materials. Yes, that's right. You do not have to break the bank in order to get into the world of archery. Check it out, OdinsonArchery.com. Our other sponsor, Mitacon. I don't have my... Oh, here it is. A little slack behind the ball here. Mitacon, do my commercial voice here. Mitacon, with a proper diet, supports the cell's fastest, most effective absorption of natural nutrients in each 250 milliliter bottle, and sustains the body's mitochondria generation of usable energy, key to producing ATP, the energy-rich fuel the body needs to achieve peak athletic strength, performance, endurance, and recovery. MitoconUSA.com. Check them out. Go there. They got a campaign going on right now. Go there, talk to my boy Ben. Tell him Alan Odinson sent you, and he will hook you up. I believe that's about it. I don't think I have any more things to talk about. If I do, I'm going to skip them because I am excited to get to this interview. This is an old friend of mine. You guys remember me talking about in the past that I originally cut my teeth in the the blogging podcast sphere kind of thing with in the world of conspiracy. I've always found it very, very interesting, and it's always funny. You know, it's just something that my family, just in general, has been involved in even before I was born, which is crazy. It's almost like it's something in the blood. But it's funny how all the things that I grow up hearing about as conspiracy theory are slowly starting to leak out into the public as conspiracy fact. And there comes a point where you have to start really asking questions and going, what the hell is going on here? So through my contacts throughout the years of talking to people and meeting with people, I'm running to this gentleman. I actually heard him on a radio show and made contact with him, and we've been talking for years now. And he is a very, very interesting guy. He's one of those guys you can bring on the show and pretty much talk about anything. So don't worry if you don't get enough of my good buddy this broadcast. You will definitely get it in future broadcast, because he has a lot of knowledge. He has a lot of knowledge and a lot of different facets. And I'm very, very happy to have him on the show. So it's my good buddy, Mr. William Whitecrow. He is a Native American shaman, which we're going to discuss that a bit. But he's going to be talking to us. One of the things that I've been talking to him about for a long time, because it's always been kind of a hobby of mine. I've got my bookshelf. I've got all these different books of all kind of crazy things. But I've got books on martial arts. I got books on history, philosophy, Norse mythology. But if you start kind of going through some of the other stuff, you start seeing some of my other habits and hobbies start popping up. You've got books here like The Secret Teachings of All Ages, Fingerprints of the Gods. What is this one here? I got a book actually written by Houdini here. It's pretty cool. But I've got the Alien Agenda by Mr. Jim Marrs. Jim Marrs is an amazing investigative journalist. But I've got a lot of different books on a lot of different things, and the whole UFO phenomenon has always been interesting. But one of the funny things about it is there's always that what if, right? There's always the question of well, where's the proof? Where's the proof? And what we found out earlier this week is that, because it was reported through major news organizations, that the U.S. government has known all along. They've known all along that these things were out there, and they're finally starting to leak this information out. There's been a lot of people talking about stuff like disclosure and everything for years and years and years. So when I saw this pop up on my news feed, it kind of brought me back to that old hobby I used to have, and I said, you know what? I want to talk about it, because a lot of people started going, man, this is pretty interesting. And I said, you know what? I've got just the guy to bring on. And you may not agree with everything you hear from him. You may have heard otherwise from some other researchers and everything out there, and that's fine. I mean, that's one of the things that makes this alternative media world so interesting. Is there's a lot of different voices out there. But a lot of the things that I've discussed with this guy in the past, let me just tell you, you're slowly starting to see these things come to pass. So, and he doesn't speak from just a knowledge standpoint of people he's met and talked to, but he also speaks from a mindset of the ancient teachings, the things he learned when he was growing up. So, enough of me, enough of Alan Odinson. Let me go ahead and jump on it here, and I'm going to start this interview off with my good buddy William Whitecrow, and I will talk to you guys on the other side. Alrighty, I am on the line with my good friend, old friend of mine, William Whitecrow. How's it going, buddy?
It's going great. I'm having a great time. Got a chance to get out in the woods today and do some splitting wood and cutting wood and just being with nature. Nothing's better than that.
Man, you're right. In modern times right now, everyone is always looking to connect via the latest electronic gadget. And granted, we are sitting here talking, from the other side of the country to each other via electronics. But man, people have become so dependent on that. I keep telling people, I say the more and more they say that they want you to connect, I'm urging you to disconnect from the system as much as you can.
Yeah, I'm that way. As we can switch right now. We're totally off the grid. We produce all of our own power, everything. We're not even hooked up to the grid in any way except for our satellite, which gives us everything we need. But I'm, got some nice acreage here, a little lake, and whenever I get a chance to walk away from a computer or turn everything off, we do. We're sitting here in candlelight right now talking to you. We got a wood-burning stove going. It's just beautiful. And disconnecting is the best way for an individual to ground themselves and really find out who they are. You can't find out who the heck you are sitting behind a desk all the time. Got to get out there and do something.
That's right. I've always there's a quote I use sometimes where I tell people that every man has an animal inside him that has to be exercised, not exorcised.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
That is a nail on the head, brother.
Yeah.
Because people forget society, everybody talks about peace and this and that. We've hunted, we've gathered, we've protected our families, our kingdom, everything for thousands upon thousands of years. That animal is inside of us. That is a part of us we never do get rid of. We just learn to control it and really form it to the way we want it to be. And that's what being a spirit warrior and a warrior is all about. It's not about going out in war. It's about understanding who you are, your training, your balance in life, and that's the word I was looking for. By understanding that aspect of yourself, you balance yourself way more than anybody else does out there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and for me and you, we'll just get on here and we'll just start talking, and people are sitting here listening. They're thinking to themselves like, well, who the hell is William Whitecrow? Well, why don't you tell them exactly who the hell William Whitecrow is?
Sure. I've been my name is William Whitecrow. I've been a shaman for a long time, well over 50 years and everything, and I've done a lot of helping cancer patients and help people get their lives together and find out who they are. I do sweat lodges. We have a store, the Crow's Place store, the crowsplacestore.com, and we help people herbs. We're really into helping people learn how to take care of themselves, personal home security, as well as be as healthy as you can, because if times ever come, and let's say you had an EMP, you want to be healthy because you're going to have to go through a lot of things. But I've written 4 books and got more on the way. 2 of them, Are You Tired of Living a Toxic Life and The Healing, are part of a 3-part series. I'm finishing up the 3rd one right now. But there, we're talking about, if you want to change your life, this is what you do. It gives you a roadmap, helps you analyze yourself. And that's what those 2 books are about, really getting out there and doing something with your life instead of being a couch potato or a couch jockey or something. The other one is a kid's book. It's a moral story, a good moral story about honor, about respect, and about an unexpected adventure and friendship. So these are all on Amazon. And my last one was the Earth Time Chronicles, which I talk about the Earth and what's really going on right now. And there's no BS. I don't care if you believe in global warming, global cooling. It's what's really happening right now and what we can do about it. And I show light at the end of the tunnel. And I've also trained people in survival and emergency systems, guerrilla tactics and all this type of stuff, because that's a really big part of my background as well. So that's kind of me, and I have a tendency to tell it like it is, and people like that.
Well, that's excellent. Here at the Barbarian Lounge, that's always been our thing. We're not holding the punches back. We're gonna let them fly, and may justice come down. Either way, it doesn't matter. If we have to burn everything down to create a new, that's kind of how it has to go sometimes. Sometimes you
can't have anything new without getting rid of the old.
That's right.
I mean, in this lifestyle, really, it's a cleansing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. A lot of people aren't willing to let go of things. They're not willing to let things die as necessary. That has to happen. It's a cycle. It's a never-ending cycle. It's the old image of the serpent with the tail in its mouth. It's a never-ending cycle.
Mm-hmm. Also, the phoenix is a good example of that. Out of the ashes of the old comes the new. And that's what we're doing every single day, each and every one of us, whether we want to realize it or not. We're finding those things in our life that don't work anymore, things in society. There's a lot out there that don't work anymore, and we take that out of our lives. It makes us a stronger person. And so we're a new person. Each and every day we do this. Right.
Absolutely. So, I had asked him earlier about the wildfires, and he says that where they're located at, he's actually located in. You're actually out there in Cali, but you're not in California. You're actually up in the northern part, right?
Yeah, I love the way you said that, Cali. It's so true what you just said. Yeah, I'm in the real Northern California. We're in Northern California, Shasta County. Sacramento and San Francisco are not really Northern California. That's what they like you to believe. We're up in the north part of the state, kind of where it turns and straightens out. I guess that's the best way to put it.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way to put
it. We got mountains and lakes and rivers, and if something ever happened, we can take care of ourselves pretty good up here.
Yeah, and I know I like the way you talk about the the self-sufficiency and the survival, and as you were discussing EMPs earlier, I've talked about those ad nauseum on this show, and it's one of the things that a lot of people don't really understand. They think if you're going to be a prepper, if you're going to be somebody that is keeping food, keeping water, that somehow that makes you paranoid. But what they fail to understand is that actually doesn't. That's the definition of not being paranoid. What do I have to be worried about if my family's taken care of?
That's right. You hit the nail on the head right there. And this is another thing that everybody needs to really stop and think about. What did our ancestors do back in the day? They prepared for winter by storing food, eggs, had their chickens. They did all this kind of stuff. It's called country living. Paranoia and all this has nothing to do with it. It's a lifestyle. And you're not running around in your camos and your weapons all the time and doing this. You're living your life with your family, doing good things. Your priorities are just different. Work hard, set yourself up so if anything ever happens, you're going to be prepared for yourself, your family, and you can help other people too, if they're good people.
Exactly. It's funny that when I talk to people about this, I tell them, I say, you're pretty much, if there's any sort of disaster, and we've had multiple disasters here where I'm at. We had flooding 2 years in a row like we've never experienced as long as I've lived here. And we had people scrambling, trying to find the next meal and get clean water. And, my little town was pretty much turned into an island here. But me and my family, we were absolutely 100% taken care of. We had water, we had food, we were eating hot meals while everyone else was eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or scrambling trying to get down to the Red Cross to bring some food in. And I mean,
well, that.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead. Keep going.
Oh no, what I was going to say is that, see, that's the point. I've listened to your shows and stuff of this nature, and you've heard me by talking out there. This is something that every person, man, woman, and child should really think about. We're living in a society where it's fast gratification right now. Boom, boom, online, everything. Well, it's going to be a great day when all of a sudden everything just goes down for like a week. Because those people will learn real quick exactly what you're talking about on your show and I've talked about on prepping and everything like this. It's something that humanity's really done since the very beginning. But since technology, we just kind of walked away from it. And that's unfortunate because it's an art. Self-defense is an art. The preparation of knowing what you can do, your food, your water, everything. This is an art. I can walk out in my woods right here, right now, set some traps, and have food by morning. Now, how many people can do that, Even if you're in an urban setting, what can you do in your city to make sure that if something happens, you're going to be okay?
Exactly.
People got to think about that.
Yeah, it's a state of, it's basically deciding whether or not you want to be an independent individual or you want to be a pet of the state, and that's pretty much the way it is. If you think about a pet, an abusive owner, which that's what I would call the state, an abusive owner, if they have a pet that they don't care for anymore, well, that pet has become dependent on them. What is that pet going to do? And that's the way a lot of these people are right now. Is they're so dependent on the state to give them food, to provide this, to provide that for them. What happens if that day rolls around where the state cannot or refuses to take care of you any longer?
Well, the fact of the matter is they can't take care of you, really, in the long run. Their population is too large, and if natural disasters happen, this has been proven through Maria, through what you guys went through in your flooding, through all these hurricanes and wildfires and everything. You have to depend on yourself because emergency services aren't going to always be there for you. And in these types of disasters, emergency services usually don't get to you until 2 or 3 days, maybe a week after the fact.
Yeah, exactly. One of the phrases we say on here all the time is no matter what, you are your own first responder. I mean, that's the number one goal. That's always been the way mankind's been structured, is to be their own first responder. But we tend to forget that, disconnection from self.
Well, very true, very true. People better understand when a natural disaster occurs, and that's why we talk about home protection devices, battery-operated electronic devices, things of this nature, because you are your security, you're your medical. You are your support of food, water, everything else. That's just the way it is. I've been in many disasters. Matter of fact, in Santa Cruz, in 1974, we were driving across Soquel Bridge and it collapsed. 30 seconds after we drove across it, we turned around and went, because all the lights blacked out, and that's where the main power line went through the whole Santa Cruz city there. We turned around and went to go back over the bridge and realized it was gone. Okay, the good thing was, here we are in a city and I knew people there, but I don't impose myself upon other people. But in my trunk, I had 2 packs with a week full of food for either one. In either one. So me and my brother-in-law, Rusty, we were fine. All we needed was a shelter. We had the car and had a friend, so we went in. We weren't a burden on anybody. We took care of ourselves, even in a city where we weren't living.
Exactly. It's simple preparations, things that you can do every day. So I've told people that before, not just counting the things that I have on me daily, but if I'm in my vehicle and something happens, I'm fine. I've got shelter, I've got food, I've got water, I've got protection means, and I'm good, for a while. Now, some people may think that this is taking it to the opposite end of the spectrum here with us talking about getting ready to delve over into this subject, but they'll probably find the more they look into it, these things are interesting. They're very, very much interconnected. I wanted to talk. One of the reasons I brought you on here is because I read an article regarding something, and I think it was found. I saw it on Yahoo, like the main front page. Talking about the UFO program that the Pentagon basically has admitted, saying that they were running a $22 billion program for investigating UFOs. And of course, according to them, that program no longer exists. I mean, of course, that's going to be the official story to that, is that it no longer exists. But when I heard about this, I said, man, I've heard Whitecrow talk about this for a long time now. And I wanted to get your thoughts on some of the information regarding this program and some other things we'll dip into here in a bit.
Sure. Basically, programs never ran; they just changed names.
Right.
And that's basically what's happening right there. They just compartmentalize everything. When I was in the Phoenix program overseas and everything, we're talking Vietnam back in the day and stuff, and even here in the States when I was working with the agencies and stuff, when people found out about something, they just turned around and compartmentalized it more, changed the people, changed the name, and that was it. To continue going on. As far as the program that they're talking about, these billions of dollars they spent on it, that was a program that was open to the public. They could look at the information anytime from the DOD, and DARPA, all this type of situation. And, it wasn't really never a classified program. I talked to an individual yesterday, where the pilot was talking about, this craft and everything. He identified that craft that this pilot said he was looking at and everything as one of the training drones that they train pilots with. And he even gave the name of what it was, where it was, because how did he know? He was one of the instructors in the programs, with these things. So he knew exactly what he was seeing. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on, and, you're never really going to get the full disclosure from the government. It's really already coming from the people that are experiencing things more and more. But as far as the governmental programs going on with researchers of UFOs, they're already reverse engineering. They're already building these crafts. They have the TR-3B. They have the Aurora. They have all kinds of stuff. They're off-world already. They got more than just the ISS, space station up there. They got other platforms, So people really just kind of need to read in between the Yahoo News, and you'll find the truth.
Yeah, that's kind of tends to be the way things go. And it's funny. I had a discussion with a guy a while back. Me and him were talking about, just some friends sitting around talking about the UFO phenomenon. He's like, why aren't more people saying that they see them? And the first thing I told him was, I said, well, how many times a week do you sit outside at night in the complete dark and stare at the sky? And he's like, oh, you got a good point. I said, you're staring at your TV. I said, if you talk to people who are actually out and about, my granddaddy is a pilot. And I mentioned something to him one time about it. I said, have you ever seen anything up there before? And he looked at me. He said, oh yeah, all the time. He said, we always see stuff up there. And I said, well, have you never said anything? He said, because you'll lose your pilot's license. He said, they'll say
that's right.
You're stressed and you don't need to be flying anymore. He said, so we don't ever say anything about it.
Yeah, we couldn't even in the programs talk about anything to public people while we were in the programs or anything. And the reason for that is because then they'll start throwing up disinformation, or you have an accident, or there's a suicide, or all of a sudden you catch cancer and you die. I mean, you never know what's going to happen out there to the people in the programs. That's how come I live. I'm 30-something miles out of town. I got to drive down, 3 miles of dirt road just to get to my compound, and then it's fenced with dogs and security.
Yeah.
And it's not paranoia. It's just that I know the government because I work with them. And I like not to be in a city simply because if a city goes down, it's easy to control the population in those cities and stuff. So now the reason I brought that up is because the media is the biggest controller of the human mind that there is out there that gets your emotions. So a lot of people, over half of the planet, I just read a survey, believes in UFOs and they want to make contact because they've seen them themselves. But you are 100% right when you're talking about people not going out. Country people have a tendency to spend more time outside. We have more of a tendency to be grounded. We have more of a tendency to stop and really think about things instead of rush to a decision. But as far as the UFO and the reverse engineering and actually even the cloning program, do you know right now, I'm just going to sidetrack here just for a second, that you can get your dog, if it dies, even up to 5 days later, take a 50-cent size piece of skin out of it, send it to a company in Japan for $100,000, and they will clone an exact duplicate of your dog for you realistically.
Wow.
So to clone a human, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Exactly the same thing. It's what you teach them after the cloning process is done on how they become their new personality or whatever it is.
Right, and that is, I always tell people, as soon as they come out with something, say like, oh, guess what, we've cloned this. I'm like, man, they're probably like 10 years behind. Like, they're 10 years ahead of that. There's no telling what they're doing, man. They've been...
Actually, the system is probably, it's well over 100 years ahead. But as far as what we're talking about, the cloning and stuff like that, they've been doing that for 50, 60 years already. They understood the principle way back then.
Right, yeah. And I don't know how much you can get into it or, on the show, but I was going to ask, 'cause some of the people may not be aware of, like, some of the work you did with some of these different programs. Can you give them kind of a piece of that or however much you can?
Well, sure, yeah, not a problem there. I worked with Project Pegasus. I also worked in some jump room technology. I was with covert operations overseas and in here in the United States. As a matter of fact, one of the individuals that found me after 30 years, believe it or not, out here in the middle of nowhere, a producer shows up in my driveway one day with this guy that I trained over 30 years before. And he was involved in the whole time programs, jump room programs, all this. And I've taught a lot of people. And I usually don't talk a lot about that, but, people have to understand that these are realities. The civilization that is living within this civilization is so far advanced that they just kind of look at your average person, oh, that's one of them. We're not part of that program, the regular civilians, regular society, because this one is so far advanced and doing what they're doing. It's unbelievable. I was part of that program. I've been at all the special places, Wright-Patterson Airfield, El Segundo down there, the CIA jump room technology. I've been an instructor on self-defense. That was what I did in the programs. Got people ready for when they ended up wherever they were supposed to go. And I can't say a lot about that, but I'll say the off-world activity and on this planet activity, that they were ready when they came out of these situations in case something tried to attack them or someone tried to attack them or whatever. Mm-hmm. My job was to take VIPs in these programs and train them and get them ready for action. And that's exactly what I did, psychologically and physically. Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of different aspects to fighting. A lot of people think that fighting is all physical. The psychological aspect is definitely a huge aspect of that. I mean, it's massive.
Well, especially when you're dealing with situations where you don't know how a particular, we talk about aliens. I like to call them the others. Okay. And when you're dealing with others, and I've had experiences, all of us have had experiences, whether we want to remember them or not. The fact of the matter, you have to know how to deal with these things. Let's say you go to another country and you give a peace sign to another country, that can be very rude. Well, it's the same thing with any type of culture. You have to know how to react, or you can get yourself in a whole bunch of trouble, possibly even get killed. So that's why they had people like me turning around, and the psychological aspect is just as heavy as the physical aspect in the training programs. Because if you're not ready for things psychologically, you've already lost the battle.
Right, and a lot of people, and a lot of it's just from not looking, but a lot of people don't understand just how deep at least what they have said that's become public information, how deep the U.S. government was in actually a lot of the psychological warfare stuff. Even dating back to I know Sergeant or Lieutenant Ed Dames of the Ed Dames running the remote viewing program. The remote viewing program, and matter of fact, this was a program that a person could purchase. They could purchase this program and actually go through it later after Ed retired. And I remember getting my hands on the program, and I'm going to tell you, people can say what they want to, but the shit works. it works.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
I've still got...
I was instructed in the military on that because I had a natural ability anyway to sense things, to feel things. And this is something that people need to understand. The people that are in these programs, this goes way deep. You have to understand that these programs follow families for generations. They can pick a child, and work with them from the time they're young all the way up through the school systems, everything into the military. When they took me in a little room when I first got pulled into the programs, when I joined the military, and they set me in a little room and asked me questions about myself, my life when I was younger, and I looked and these people already know. I could tell. I could sense they already knew. And, Sergeant Simpson was there, which he wasn't a sergeant. He was a colonel, I found out later on. And that's just how they work. They bring you into the programs. They start training you, and you're operative at that point. I don't like to use super soldier. You're an operative. A lot of people like to use that term. I hate that term. This is what we say in operations. I am not the best, but I've worked with the best. Because it's all about teamwork. It's about people working together. And sticking to their guns. That's important.
Right, and people may hear some of this and say that sounds a little off, but listen, guys, this is you can look real. Yeah, you can look the information up about Ed Dames and look up his Learn RV program. I was saying I've got a portfolio here from the sessions that I used to do, and it is crazy because through his site you could actually. There's a certain method. People always ask me how to do it, and I'm like, you've got to get you have to honestly get the program and understand how to do it. But it's not what a lot of people think it is. And I've always kind of theorized with this, and maybe you can clear it up for me. The way Ed Dames kind of worked it in his Learn RV program was that it was basically all just, you sit down, you're not thinking, you're just kind of writing, and you're going through the process. And he said that, according to him now, in his official thing, that was basically the only level. It doesn't go any higher than that. And I noticed that the more I did it, I felt like I was starting to kind of perceive things ahead of time without actually writing. And I always thought to myself that was just a cover, that this was basically level 1.
Yeah, you're on the money.
Yeah.
There are other levels. The understanding of what I can do is insane. It bothers me at times. We can talk about keeping our head on a swivel, where you can't stop your mind and this perception. Once you learn it, you start perceiving things, knowing things way ahead of time. The St. Louis Bridge, when there's a bridge will collapse there. I told people 60 days ahead of time that was going to happen to that bridge. 2 years ahead of time. About 2.5 years here, 9/11. I stood up in my living room, and there was 7 or 8 people standing around. And I said, you got to listen to this, pay attention, write it down. There's going to be some aircraft that's going to hit tall buildings. 2.5 years later, that happened in New York. Mm-hmm. These things preceding, I've been on several, especially this last one, which kind of bothered me because law enforcement wouldn't listen, on a missing persons case. And I told them about how many letters there were that he had written, certain aspects of those letters, which I was on the money 100% with, how far away it was away and the direction he was, and that he had committed suicide, and he'd be leaning up against a tree, and he had another letter. Every single one of these things were 100% on the money. Mm-hmm. And they were kind of blown away. Now I got people coming, hey, can you help this? And I kind of don't do that, because now I use these abilities for myself those close, and I'll tell people on radio shows what I perceive is going to happen, and we can kind of go from there. But the remote viewing is real because it is a natural part of us, and that's what people need to understand. And the deeper you go into it, like you said, Al, the deeper you go into it, you start finding those other levels yourself. Yeah, and it gets quite deep.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, and this is something, like I said, this was a military program that's on the record. You can find that. There's other books written by a guy, retired Navy SEAL, SIOC Kali practitioner, Michael Jaco. Michael Jaco's the same thing. He's got a whole book on the perception work that they did in the SEALs. So I mean, and a lot of people who are listening to this show, they're going to know who Michael Jaco is, and they know he's not a bullshitter at all in the least bit. I mean, so these are absolutely real programs. So it's always interesting. So I know that the U.S. government's always kind of had their fingers in everything, but I think that the $1 million question that a lot of people are always questioning about is with the UFO technology. Obviously, there's a lot of information that points to the U.S. government fully knowing about all these things, but a lot of people are wondering, with these beings, are they physical? Are they physical aliens? Are they otherworldly? What is the nature of these things are actually supposed to be?
Well, we have to understand that there's a lot of different beings out there, shall we say? If there's we got what is it, 7.4 or 7.5 billion people on the planet right now, and there's so many diverse aspects of the human being, it's like, wow. Same thing with this. The fact of the matter is, the ones that I know with and that I have dealt with, and there's been there's 5, but 4 that really stand out and everything that our government's working with, and the Earth is their home just as much as today. They've been here longer than us. The fact of the matter is, you have physical beings, then you have those that can shift. And I know there's people, they can't shift in their head. BS all the way. It's all BS. They also have a dimensional aspect. One group in particular does. They can travel back and forth in dimensional time, things of this nature. This is how we ended up with a lot of our time technology, as a matter of fact. So the fact is our government is working with them. The aspects of, are they physical and do they come from outside our system and everything in the physical sense? Yes, they do, but they've been here for a long time, so they're like earthlings too, I guess you could say. We do have those that can shift, and we do have those that are interdimensional. So the answer to your question, there's a whole concept of this multidimensional being, and we have to be careful. Because CERN is working on this as well. CERN just isn't to find out atomic particles and things of this. There's a whole other aspect of CERN that's going on right there that they're not talking about to anybody.
Yeah, it's interesting with the whole idea of the different beings and stuff like that, because I've always found that aspect very interesting, because people will start asking, are they malevolent? Are they here to help? And that probably falls in the same category, both, right? It's just like people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yes. 100%. I know some that we are just a resource. That's all we are. We're like cattle. And it's not no issue to grab somebody. Look at how many people are disappearing in the United States or around the world every year, and there's no trace of anything. So you really have to look at that. Look at how many. Well, I can't go into that part, but I wanted to, but I can't. The thing about what's really happening right now on the planet is a major shift in the human population, humanity, hybridization, things of this nature right now. That the smoke and mirrors is working so good, they just don't want anybody to know about it. But we have good and bad. But we do have ones that are looking at. We have to understand, folks out there, if they wanted to invade us, they could have done that a long time ago. They've been here longer than we have been here. Their technology is so far advanced of us, they're not afraid of us, anything like this, that they could shut down our nuclear weapons in their silos or in flight. There's nothing they have to worry about from us. We may have that big ego and think, well, we're this and we're that. It's all BS, 100%. We do have some that are working with us and have been working for us for generations, millennial generations, as long as man has been around, because they need us as much as we need them. Now, I'm going to say something here that I can say that I know about the programs. The fertility rate of human beings is dropping like a rock right now. Okay, men, women, everything all the way around. Every once in a while, you have to infuse new genetics into a species so it can continue its existence, especially when you have a planetary change taking place.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's kind of it's funny too, because the things that you're talking about here, these aren't just if you look at like the with you being a shaman and whatnot. You've probably seen this even going back to your teaching then. Like, these are things that are found all over the world. There's paintings, there's stories, and you start finding these things all start going together. You see the same stories told in Egypt that are told in in Mexico and in South America, and all these stories, they start sharing these same things. I mean, these are things that are found even in the Native American teachings as well.
Oh, yeah. They talk about the creation, how many times they had to turn around and work with us to create the right being. So it wasn't just like they talk about the ancient Anunnaki, where they had to genetically deal with us several times before they came out with a particular being that they wanted. When I was growing up as a very young kid, we were taught about them as just as real as me and you here talking. They talked about our space brothers and sisters, but they just said the others at that time. That's why I use that term. Mm-hmm. And we interact on a regular basis, and we have. The Hopi talk about the lizard people and the insect people helping them come from the different worlds, shall we say, from beneath. And every other single aboriginal peoples out there across the entire planet talk about us being brought here, being created here, and everything else. So we have several Genesis projects that actually took place on this planet. Whether we want to face it or not, we're all hybrids. That's just the way that is in all reality. And the sooner we face that, the better off it is, and then we can understand exactly what's going on out there. It's a new paradigm, a new way of thinking. So the facts are, there's bad, there's good out there, just like human beings. And even some of one species that may seem all good, you can have some in there that aren't good. They're out for their own reasons. So,
well, yeah. I mean, he's talking about the stories of the natives. I remember hearing the interview years ago. This is the old interview from Credo Mutwa out in Africa, talking about the same thing with the Chitauri. There, the same lizard people story, and even here on this here on the East Coast, the Cherokee even have stories in our area here about certain like lizard type people, so it's interesting. It's interesting to see these stories. I mean, they weren't working with the internet,
Yeah, well, there's a saying between the skins, as we call ourselves, the natives, 5 million years and 5 billion people can't all be wrong, over the history. The fact of the matter is, when you see something being repeated generation after generation, millennium after millennium, and they're talking about the same type of things, it's a reality. It isn't a legend or something. As a matter of fact, all legends are based on some form of fact. And they also know that they are coming, they're here. They also know that there's other ones that are coming back, and they're preparing for that. You talk about the blue kachina and red kachina, things of this nature. So, there's just a whole lot of things that add up to the point of, why don't you just tell us the truth of what's really going on, as a human species, about these other beings. Let us make up our minds and let us work. If we want to work with them, let us work with them. Right now, the control structure is there to control us. And these are more of the negative ones that we're working with certain aspects of this other civilization that's living within us, within our civilization. And people are smart enough now. The great thing about the electronic age and everything like this is instant information. So if something happens, you can immediately go check things out and find out and do your own research. You don't have to listen to NBC or CBS, any of these one, ABC or any of them, CNN, any, But the fact of the matter is, you can do your own research, find out the truth of what's going on, and make your own decision. It isn't necessary for somebody to tell us. That's why we're having the problems in the world right now, because people are waking up to the reality of not only that situation, but our control situation as well.
Right. And that's something that the power structure right now is struggling to hold on. and you can tell. There's this. That's why they almost act like they're on a sinking ship and they're fighting for the final life raft. You know, I mean,
they are.
That's kind of what I see.
They really are.
And you talked about like these the others, some of these others that are working with aspects of the government. What would you say is those negative aspects? What is the grant? Like if they have one goal, and I'm sure it's deeper than one goal, but if their goal, what is the ultimate goal of these malevolent others that are working with certain aspects of the U.S. government?
Well, number one, they need resources for themselves. They have an agenda here too. They live here too. They've been here for, like I said, quite some time. The fact of the matter is, it's all about control. If they can help those higher ups, now listen to this, close folks out there, if they can turn around and help those higher ups be in states of power, be very wealthy, and all these other things, then they don't have to do the work to get what they want done on this planet. Also, there's another thing out there, and I've talked about this in, Genesis effects and everything of this nature about the terraforming. What better way to turn around and change the planet for how you want it by giving a particular species or whatever on that world the technology to change it for you. And they like it because it makes them feel good. It gives them, like, transportation access here and there. But at the same time, it's changing the entire planet's biome and ecosystem to fit you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard people talk about the aspect of terraforming in the past, and if you look at a species, if you think about it just from a scientific standpoint, if you look at a new species that moves into an area, one of the first things it goes to do is start making it more habitable for it to live. So
that's right.
Yeah,
we do the same thing.
Right.
If we go out, like when I bought my property here, I got a little lake on it, and a nice acreage and stuff. First thing, I moved on this piece of property and started making it for me and my family. I wanted a wood pile here. I wanted my structure for my home right here. I want my sitting area to be under these trees. Well, any species that goes, look at what we're talking about doing to other worlds and everything already, and they're in such a quick hurry to find another world for humanity to migrate. That people need to start thinking about that too, because it matches what we're talking about right now.
Right, and you've talked about these earth changes and this shift that's coming. What would you say is the cause of a lot of these earth changes? It's funny, real quick, they talk about global warming and climate change and all these different things, but it's kind of something that has happened in the past. For one, for two. It's kind of like there's never even if it's real and whatever they want to say, even if that is the case, there's never actually any sort of real answers other than we need more money to. I don't know what the money's going to do to actually, they're not actually more taxes. Pay me more taxes and that'll fix global warming. They're never really even offering any sort of thing for that. So, tell me a little bit about what's actually going on.
That's the control structure I was telling you about, brother. As long as they keep their mind looking at other things and they have a unique way, they know our emotions and how to control us better than we do. So if they can catch you emotionally and everything, get you fighting one another, they still complete their agenda by manipulating you emotionally and everything. The fact of the matter, what's happening to the planet, it's changing quick, fast, and in a hurry. And like I say on a lot of my shows on Quantum Quest Radio, I turn around and tell people straight up, sure, we've enhanced some systems, there is no doubt about that and everything, but the question isn't about whether it's global warming or global cooling, it's about what's happening right now and what we can do about it. That's really the most important thing right there. It's people to get off of the arguing thing and being in one camp or the other and figuring out, okay, this is happening. In my book, Earth Time Chronicles, I talk about this. This is happening in our environment. The smart ones are going to say, if there's certain things we can't change, we're going to have to adapt to. And everything else, we can make technologies and everything so the future will be better for us. And we go into that, what we call a Class 1 civilization. So that's part of what's going on right there right now. So I would just tell everybody right now, get out of all the camps, do your own research, get up out of the armchair, quit watching YouTube videos and things of this nature. I mean, they're good, they give you knowledge, But get out there and start doing your own research and everything and find out what's going on. Find out what the answer is for you on what's going on, too. Mm-hmm. Because humanity's changing quick, fast, and in a hurry, my friends. And we got in between 100 and 200 years before some changes to the point. We're losing our planet's magnetic field right now. 5% per decade. It was already 30%, 25 to 30% gone when I was talking about this, over 25 years ago. Our planet's ability to produce the oxygen from our, the forests and trees and jungles and everything. The Amazon's 1/3 gone now because it's into palm farms, to create oil for biofuels. The ocean has lost its ability to produce the same amount of oxygen. We've lost 0.20% of oxygen in the last 10 years in our era. So we got a weakening magnetic field. We can tell by just looking at what's going on around the planet right now magnetically. Do the research. Get out there and look, folks. And our oxygen content going down. So I wonder why they got a hybrid program going on.
Yeah, getting to get people prepared, right? I mean, prepared for the changes.
That's right. Uh-huh. I had to throw that in there to make people think.
Just slip it in.
Because everything is changing so much, so fast right now. A lot of things in nature can't keep up. A plant can't pick up and move itself. Animals, certain types of animals, amphibians, reptiles, can't make the distance that they need to make, within a period of time with these changes happening. The massive droughts, fires going on in California and stuff. We're getting prepared. There's a lot going on.
Do you think... well, we're going to start bringing it to a close here. Real quick, you have any websites or any place you can direct people to where they can find out more about your work?
Yeah, I'm on William Whitecrow is on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. My website is williamwhitecrow.com. I also have a herbal store and stuff. It's called thecrowsplaystore.com. On Amazon, I have my books out. Are You Tired of Living a Toxic Life? And the second book to that series, The Healing. My bow fryer. I had to write this book. I came up with this book on the way to my grandkids' birth. And the whole story came to me. It's an excellent moral tale for kids. And great for parents and kids to get together and read. And my Earth Time Chronicles, all of these are on Amazon. Is about the Earth, where it's at right now. And I even say in the very beginning of the book, I don't care if you believe in global warming, global cooling. This is what's happening. This is where we're going. Some things we can change, some things we can't change. And I give a light at the end of the tunnel. So that's pretty much the deal with me. And you can contact me also by williamwhitecrow@yahoo.com if you just want to talk to me.
Yeah, excellent, man. Well, we'll definitely have to get you back on the show to talk about some more stuff,
sure,
man. Because, like I said, me and you, we've been kind of talking back and forth for a while. So it's good to sit down and be able to present some of the conversations we've had to my audience here.
I hear you. It's been a pleasure. I tell you, I knew you had the Barbarian Lounge, and I've been watching and all your posts. You know me, I comment and stuff like that, and then I watch and everything. And I think you're doing a great job. And anytime you want me on the show, you just contact me. We'll always work something out. Awesome.
Well, I'm going to talk to you on the other side here, and thanks for coming, buddy.
You betcha, brother.
All right, guys, we are back. I told you guys that was going to be a wild ride, and it definitely lived up to it, man. It's funny. A lot of people are quick to dismiss people like William Whitecrow, and they think that, they question this and they question that, which obviously you should. He would be the first to tell you should do so. But at the same time, as he said, a lot of these things he's talking about, one, they've either been declassified, they can easily be found online. We've already started to see little bits of declassified information coming out. But, even the talk about the others that he talked about, man, you've got, these aren't things that he's coming up with off the top of his head. These are things he's learned through his practice, from his people, from other people. Other tribes all throughout the world are sharing these same things. They're all seeing the same thing. They're all talking about the same thing. Their legends are similar. When you really look into it, you start saying, man, you've got this many eyewitnesses. You've got this many accounts of a similar thing. And if this was a police investigation, you would start to say, well, we've got some probable cause here. Right? These things are starting to add up. We can open a case based on this information. And that's what we're finding. There's a lot of guys like him out there. You got guys like Stephen Greer. I mean, just massive amounts of people in the military, people who are who are pilots. All this information is coming out, but there's a lot of disinformation as well. One of the things that you guys, for your regular listeners, that I will say, if you're not a member on our member site, you're going to miss out on this portion. And it was probably, of the entire talk, it was one of my absolute favorite portions. There's a second part to this interview. A second part of this interview where we're not talking about anything like, aliens or the others or government programs or anything of that nature. We're not talking about those things. He and I sat back and we had a discussion on the importance of the tribe. And this is from a gentleman who's of the Native American flavor. Okay. I figure if you're going to talk to a guy about tribe, who better than a Native American shaman? So me and him sat down and we had a discussion on the importance of tribe, about coming out on the other side of this. How at the end of all of this, everything we've talked about here, whether you're talking about governments or impending doom here and there, there's always one answer to it. It all comes down to the same answer, and that's tribe. And I figured I had him on the line. I had the hook in deep. I figured I would go ahead and bring it up to him. And we talked about a lot of aspects of tribe. We talked about the importance of the shaman role, the importance of the warrior mindset, both physical and the spiritual warrior, why that is important. We discussed aspects of preparedness. We talked about the importance of setting yourself up for a good death. We also discussed at length about PTSD and things he's done to help people, and probably some things that some people would find kind of controversial as it relates to how you deal with an individual who's suffering from PTSD. I believe that it would shake the very foundation of the medical world to hear what he has to say there. And it was just absolutely amazing. It's probably a good 30-40 minutes worth of a discussion there on the importance of tribe, the importance of healing your community, healing yourself, preparing for a good death, leaving a strong legacy. Man, just absolutely amazing. That's probably when I'm kind of fiddle-tongued here. That's probably one of the reasons. Conversations like that's what I live for. And it was definitely a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And I hate to tell you guys, if you're not a member, I would absolutely love to share this for everybody. But I've been saying for a long time that for my members, the people that actually have a little bit of skin in the game, that I want to offer them more. And this is what I'm doing here. So this second portion, discussing the tribal aspect of our future with William Whitecrow. It's only going to be available for members. So how do you become a member? It's very simple. Patreon.com/The Barbarian Lounge. I'll put a link. You'll see all the good stuff with that. And tell you, for you guys that are members, you are going to get a phenomenal discussion on tribe from a guy who's been there, from a guy who's seen it work, knows how it operates. And you're going to hear something from a gentleman who is of the spiritual mindset and how taking care of ourselves and building up our strong mind, strong spirit, that which makes us. You're going to hear the importance of that from this guy. So for you members, enjoy. For you people that aren't members, check it out. You'll have a link and everything. You'll be able to find it on the Barbarian Lounge podcast Facebook page. You'll also be able to obviously just become a member. Remember, it's only $1 per episode, $8 a month, and you can enjoy all the perks and benefits of the membership. So that's it, guys. I'm going to wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed the interview. I don't get to do a lot of kind of out there, off the wall kind of stuff, talking about the conspiracy things, but I think they're fun. I just like I said, I'm not here to say yes or no to anything you heard today. I'm just here listening, man. I am a spectator on life here. Very, very, very interesting topics, and I think it'll definitely make some people think, and make some people raise their eyebrows. But hopefully you got something from it. If anything, you just enjoyed the banter between he and I. Let me tell you something though. That tribal discussion that we have on the members portion, man, it's priceless. So you're never going to hear it if you're not a member. So